Saying you might
I
need
see what you did,
healthcare,
Panda.
but you won't get it is such
Shut
an
up.
innate trans experience for
Don't say
Americans.
anything.
True.
This is so scuffed.
What do you need
So
an
for those
overlay
who can't
for?
see,
Oh.
they took the screenshot of Luxander's spot and put their or the screenshot of them underneath the overlay, so that instead of having to bother with resizing everything, it just works now.
Yeah, well done.
I'm crying.
Perfect.
Okay. Let's get this fucking dumb show on the road.
Hour later. You want to start at the top of the list, or
Yeah,
even
of course. I'm just like trying to think of where I am right now. So thank you everybody for joining me, and everybody else here. We are doing this for the Trevor Project. It is a charity. You can see at the bottom of the screen that we have a Tiltify goal. We've gotten to 551 right now. We're making our way up to 1,000. If everybody here can like hopefully like put up a link for the charity. If you're streaming, please do so, if you don't mind. And yeah, I appreciate everybody for coming here on the panel.
Of course. My pleasure.
So
Thanks for the invite.
yeah, absolutely. So let's start with Luxander. Who are you?
Hello, I'm Luxander. I am a streamer on YouTube, and I'm non-binary and trans, and I've been medically transitioning for like 7 years. Currently, I'm a political commentator. We talk about these new laws that are coming up all over the place, and we try to do our best to remain sane and share survival skills and therapy skills with each other as well, so that we don't end up feeling too bogged down. And like sometimes we just have fun. So that's what I'm about nowadays. I use either it, its, or they, them pronouns.
And Freckle.
So you want to get to talk about myself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me who you
Okay,
are.
well,
What the
hi,
fuck are you doing
y'all.
here?
Honestly, this is like a real shitpost to riches story going on right now. Somehow just making jokes with the Navy's chat brought me here, but I'm Persephone, or Freckle. I don't know if we're using government names or not, and
Whatever you want to use.
been medically transitioning for 5 years. I'm a labor organizer. I don't know if I have the right to say my union's name, but I don't, so I'm not going to. But
Fair enough.
yeah, I've been in union work for most of my life. Honestly, I like just realized today that been doing this for almost half my life now.
Nice.
Nice.
Pretty great. And yeah.
And Emma. Who the fuck are you?
I'm fucking Emma. I I use she her. Binary trans. I guess I could say I'm a musician because that's kind of what I do when I get the chance.
Oh, don't sell yourself short. You are a musician.
What I do for a living is not enough.
The struggle is
Okay.
real.
Well, hey. Yeah, I'm kind of a local musician and doing that kind of thing. That's it. I'm not super interesting. So.
Do you
Oh,
stream?
bullshit.
That's a lie.
Did you say you streamed?
Yeah. I stream every once in a while. I'll do guitar streams. When I have the motivation enough to be able to do so.
Fair enough. I have to be there too.
My streaming thing is EMA Games. Wanna look upon that?
Yeah.
Is that on YouTube or?
It's on Twitch. Who streams on YouTube? What do you mean?
Me.
Yeah, I mean, we try not to name any names, but
They're gonna start
some-
improving their tools because so many people are migrating over there. Like people get canceled off Twitch, they go to YouTube. They're gonna start improving the tools. It's already not bad, frankly. The latency's pretty low over here.
So
Ooh.
what'd you get canceled for on Twitch?
I didn't. I said fuck it. I only use self-referential slurs, and I was not gonna play that game with them. So I wouldn't dare
And-
show my face on your streams, my dear Twitch friends.
And Uwu.
I am Don't Ooh My Oo or Amy. She, her pronouns. I am a political commentator of all sorts, really. I stream a lot on housing and things to improve the way that we build. And things to improve the way that we build our cities, and especially if it can help the like houseless people living amongst our communities. I live in Pittsburgh, so houselessness is a huge problem here, and because of that, I've gotten pretty passionate about trying to help them get better lives. We stream videos from YouTube. We've reviewed Luxander's videos a couple times.
My goodness.
Ooh.
Basically anything that affects my life or affects my interests is up for game. Yeah.
Sweet. And I am Starpanda, if you haven't already known. My words are not great right now, so please bear with me. This is all for charity. And my eye is wigging out. Don't know why, but we're gonna move on. So, let's start with Amy. What do you feel is like, what is your relationship to masculinity and femininity?
It's a weird one. It's tenuous, you could say. Uh, I I feel quite feminine, but at the same time, like, I don't know, because like what we consider masculine, what we consider feminine, a lot of those things aren't actually either, or they shouldn't be gendered. Working on cars, being into cars, I don't think should be gendered. Being into rock music or what have you. But I grew up in an environment that had me completely concerned all the time over whether or not I was being masculine enough. I was one of the types of trans people where prior to coming out, I lived most of my life by avoiding anything I thought was slightly feminine because I was so certain, and I realized how silly this sounds, that if I listened or did something feminine, everyone would know that's a tranny.
That's a really long-winded way of saying you don't wipe your butt, Amy.
What?
That was a bad joke, I guess. I think that's a really long-winded answer to saying you didn't wipe your butt.
Oh God,
Remember all
no.
those
No,
people
no,
saying
no,
like
no,
they
no,
don't.
no, no. No, I was not one of those. God, no. Oh God. Don't get me twisted. I do wipe thoroughly. Too thoroughly.
Good.
Um but yeah, it's I feel that I kind of rock that andro bit a lot. Like, so to be technical, I identify as gender flux. Um and basically rock between demigirl and just andro. Um and yeah, that's pretty much my relationship to it, I think.
Nice. And Emma, what is your relationship to those things?
My relationship to masculinity is negative. Um,
Fair.
No, thank you.
yeah, that's I kind of think about it as like on the masculine feminine scale, I'm like a 9 towards them. Like I still have interests that can be like coded as masculine. Even guitar playing has been coded as masculine in some instances. Um, Interest in cars and mechanics and engineering, things like that. Um, I like to build my own stuff. I've built, furniture, other woodworking things. I've built guitar pedals, um, based off of a very minute knowledge of electrical engineering. I've worked on amplifiers. Um, just I that went
You-
sideways quick. I still have these interests that would be considered masculine interests, even if I don't see them as such. Um,
Yeah.
but I view myself entirely in a feminine light, and I feel pretty dysphoric when that's taken away, if that makes sense.
It
Mhm.
does, yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Um, it's part of why I'm like, oh yeah, I don't do much. I had my first gig playing music and singing in years, like last weekend, because
Nice.
I was so unconfident in my voice. Um, I'm also in Florida, so like I should add that bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that like me going out and not passing is potentially dangerous. And early on in my transition, I was like threatened, like verbally accosted. My car got spit at, and I got called all kinds of names. So I'm sure that's also influenced me to be not very expressive of any masculine side. But
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I remember someone accosted me in the parking lot, and I pulled out a knife, and they sped off. It's like, yeah, all right, that's what I thought.
Arm trans women.
And Freckle, what is your relationship with masculinity and femininity?
Fuck it. I
Fair.
think that honestly, it's an evolving thing, you know. Um, I'm in a business where it's generally better to be viewed as a more masculine. So, as somebody who's very much, be the best way to say it, I dress very, very butch. You know, like I always laugh at like first year people go through transition, they do this like really hyper feminine thing and try to overcorrect, and then there's a correction, and I laugh because now I just dress the same as I've always have. I just got boobs. So like, what does that mean? Like, what is masculinity? What was dressing masculine? But it's fun. It's interesting. I think that it's a delicate balance that we get to walk sometimes, and it makes the transition part a lot more fun.
Yeah, that definitely. I feel like we all are in agreement with having our uh, relationships with masculinity and femininity being like meh, you know, like just whatever. Luxander, do
Yeah,
you
like,
agree?
No, someone was about to step in. You can go ahead.
Go ahead, yeah.
oh, I was gonna say, yeah, like, prior to coming out, I thought in very strictly masculine versus feminine terms, and then yeah, the first year or so afterwards, I was hyper femme for a while. Like, I did not wear pants ever.
Mhm.
Even pajama bottoms bothered me. I would wear long skirts to bed. Um, and as I got more into gender theory, I guess, along with just my transition in general, it's become more of a matter of no, I am just happier being viewed as a woman, but my interests are pretty much the same.
Mhm.
Like there's more things I engage in that I wouldn't have engaged in before at all. Like you know, like before I would have never done makeup, and now it's something where I do my makeup on occasion. I didn't dial my makeup to horror for this stream, but I try to on
All
occasion.
right. I won't fucking hear no shit about dialing makeup to horror, all right?
No, that wasn't you. That was actually directed towards Freckles' comment to me during a panel stream in which I did dial it up to horror.
I think that I might be the only person assigned female on this panel, so I get to represent the femboy perspective, the AFAB femboy perspective, because I grew up, and of course, like I was just treated like a girl. I realized that I was trans when I was about like 15, and it's like weird. Like very briefly at first, I thought I was a trans man because I didn't know about non-binary identities. So I was like, oh, this is dysphoria. Like I must be a boy. Get me Axe deodorant, please, the next time you go to the store, Dad. A little autistic child. Just I had no. And then he cornered me in the car and was like, "You need to tell me what's going on about all this." And I was like, "Okay." And that was our relationship. We have a great relationship. It's fine. So at first
Sounds
I
like
was
a
like,
fair reaction to Axe
yeah, I mean,
deodorant, though.
it was that in combination with other things, but I'm just like to reductively indicate that like, I was asking for a lot of different things like haircuts and change of clothes and stuff. But yeah, so at first I thought I was a trans man, and then I realized I was non-binary, and I was like in a situation where I was kind of like it might be like I would prefer not to have to transition, basically. So I was like, I am a female genderqueer person, and that's a little bit cringe in retro. When I was 21, I was finally like, I actually need to take tea, I think. Like, I keep thinking about it too much to not try it, at least. And I went on tea for 2 years, really hardcore masculine presentation at that time. Um, Trying really hard to pass, like, same thing that women do, I think, where you go really hard femme at first. You're like, the only thing that matters to me is to stop getting misgendered in my life. um, which a part of this acceptance for a non-binary person is also realizing that there's no context in which you're necessarily going to be gendered correctly at the first try, which actually is kind of changing a little bit. But to finish the timeline, like I ended up stopping taking tea after about 2 years because I started being dysphoric about like the body fat redistribution mainly. And then I tried to be an electrician. So I was like off tea for 2 years, and then I went back on in order to like have the mental and emotional stability that being on testosterone affords me. Um, so of course I tried to pass as male with that, and that was kind of my last time of trying masculinity at all. Like I have been somewhat feminine throughout these periods of time, mostly at home, but now my presentation is basically like I genuinely don't care what people think when they see me in public. I don't like I can easily chameleon either way, especially because I still mask everywhere I go. Like I still am wearing a KN95 mask everywhere. So it's literally just dependent on like my voice and whether the shirt that I'm wearing is baggy enough to obscure my chest. Um, and then in my home life, I'm like, oh wow, you know what's really great? Rockabilly dresses, like vintage style dresses. And I'll wear like a corset with them. And I'm like, damn, this is awesome. And then some days I'm like, actually, I'm gonna dress like vampire boyfriend today. So I like being super fluid, but basically just approaching. I think a lot of non-binary people might be able to feel this, like whether you're coming from it, either direction of like I can now approach femininity from a masculine place instead of just it being all female, feminine, whatever. Like I'm much more able to approach femininity from the like self-perception of myself as a trans mask femboy, like specifically feels like somehow different. Like, and I know someone who has
I vibe
had
with that.
like yeah, like so I know someone who has had top surgery and bottom surgery, and sometimes they'll still like do on a full face of like it's not drag makeup because it's not over exaggerated like that, but they'll just make themselves look like a woman and like go out with their partner to dance and stuff. And like I just feel that so deeply of being able to approach, I guess, both masculinity and femininity from a place of just like I am whatever and it doesn't matter on like it. I'm agender, by the way. Like you said gender flux earlier, and I kind of vibe with that, but I don't want to quantify the gendered feelings surrounding my desires to change my expression. So I just consider myself agender, and then I just dress however I want, and I love that for me.
Yeah, that's great. I generally feel pretty compared to my girlfriend, I feel pretty feminine, I guess. And she is cis, so that's where we are. um but I guess like in my day-to-day life, I'm like just whatever. Like I just wear sweatshirts and pajamas like all the time.
True. I work from
Um,
home. True.
Yeah, I do not leave the house unless I have to. So, like, just being in pajamas is my gender. So,
I'm gonna go
um,
to the liquor store later in sweats. I don't give a fuck.
yeah, I do that when I'm going to like the store for any reason. Like, I do
Yep.
not care. So, but yeah, I loved all your answers and very enlightening. What's the next one?
I was gonna say I always make the joke when I do a GSA for some students here in Chicago. They always go like, "What did you know you were trans?" And I just feel like I still don't know. I just started transitioning. My life has been a lot better, so I just continue with it.
That makes sense.
What
And
do
it's
you?
just
I
sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I just said it's like
I completely forgot what I was gonna say. So
Oh, whoops. Sorry.
I was gonna say when it comes to like talking to people about your gender expression or identity or what you're feeling, like they always want this linear story. And as we found out, was it Lux? You were just saying that?
Yeah.
Like it's not linear at all. And I think that's something kids are slowly starting to pick up on more and more.
They always want the when I was 5 years old, I wore my mom's heels and I knew.
hmm That was something very validating early on for me. I was on LiveJournal at the time when I was trying to figure out my trans identity, and I was posting on like, one of the little, I mean, it's functionally like a little subreddit on LiveJournal, being like, I think there may have been some signs when I was younger, like this, and this, and like having people respond like, you seriously don't need for there to have been like signs your whole life, like it's not necessary. And I was like, oh shit, that makes things easier for me.
Yeah, like it's more like, oh, so that's what that behavior was. Okay, cool. You know.
The
I kind of
memories
have
all start turning trans color in retrospect.
I think anymore you know times that I do get misgendered these days feels like it's mostly because of being 6 foot tall more than or my voice.
Yeah.
But beyond that, like I have pretty positive experiences when I go out and keep my mouth shut.
Like a true woman.
I was waiting for
I was trying really not to. I was trying really hard. Felt it bubble up from my toes to my throat.
Keeping your
So.
mouth shut. Feminization successful.
True.
So, uh, what do you guys wish the trans community would do differently to make it more accepting or less cringe? Luxander, what do you think?
Oh, yeah, we talked about this a little bit earlier. I first of all think that people addressing their trauma would for sure make them a lot less cringe.
I think that works for a lot of people because, you know, uh, everyone should go to therapy, just like in general.
There are a lot. If you're in America, there are like sliding scale mental health clinics.
Mhm.
Like I pay like $15 a session or something like that, and it's a lot more accessible in places that have some like community resources involved there. But I think even if you just have like a shitty therapist on BetterHelp, it's probably better than nothing.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, I also like I've made content recently about like the SJW problem, like the just the infighting kind of behaviors. Like, I really wish that we would be willing to give people a little bit more grace and like be willing to engage with people with the assumption that we're both hitting the discussion in good faith. Like, especially when you're talking with other trans people. Obviously, if you're talking with someone who is like got like a Norse tattoo on their chest and you're not sure where they're coming from. Like, I get the urge to be skeptical in those cases, but it bothers me so much how we have a tendency to interpret things in the worst possible faith possible. Like, okay, for an example, you're seeing the chili discourse on Twitter right now. Anybody familiar with this like lady made some chili for her neighbors and people were calling it ableist of her?
I saw
Yeah.
that, yeah.
Oh no, we
What?
made chili last night. Am I getting canceled?
Only if you take it over to your neighbors. Did you know that taking chili to your neighbors is just like pushing a person in their wheelchair out of your way without asking them first?
Oh, whatever.
It's
That's
ableist.
wrong
Yeah.
too.
I just don't understand people. And so I think we need to stop doing that kind of shit. That's a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Okay, so I have a different kind of
that's like
take on that.
the Twitter discourse that I just find hyper cringe.
Yeah.
So
I feel like that's just Twitter. I'm not on Twitter, and I just feel like that's just kind of Twitter.
so
In a
the
nutshell.
Wait,
the
can you
thing
explain that? Like, why? What's the story behind this?
The person's thread was like easily 30 tweets long. And let me tell you, I did not read it.
Okay, because I was gonna bring my friend who just got quarantined some chili, but this is changing my perspective.
Yeah, it's not allowed.
Fuck.
so
Okay.
okay, so I have a little bit of a different perspective on this because I have a partner who has like issues with their bowels. And like if you just bring something over, in my perspective, like just some random food, you have no idea if they have like allergic reactions or anything like that. And I kind of took it that way because like you don't know if that person has those kinds of reactions, so you should probably just ask first before you bring something over that they might not be able to have, and then you waste like a bunch of food. So like in that way, that's kind of what I took from it. But like,
That should be a general sentiment, right? Like,
right,
hey, I
yeah.
want to bring something over. Hey, you cool with me bringing it over? Like,
I mean, the chili is an icebreaker, like in a way. Like, she had not spoken to her new neighbors yet. She was like, should I make them some chili to like kick this off? And so it's like, if you get over there and they're like, oh, honey, we're vegetarian, then you're like, oh, I'm so sorry, like, that's fine. I'll put this in the freezer and save it for myself. I would love to make you some vegetarian chili if you're open to that. Like, opening the door to being neighborly. I'm
Yeah.
horrible at this. I wanted to make cookies when we moved into this new place for our neighbors, and I just never did. And then a couple months
Yeah.
later, we found out the person below us had killed himself. So maybe I should have done that. Like,
Oh, no.
filled with regret.
That's not good. Oh god.
That's why you
That's
need to
why
bring
knowing your
back
neighbors
Old
is important.
Reliable with some Jello mold.
True.
So let's go back to the topic. Get a little bit away from the chili. Freckle, what did you wish the trans community would do differently to make it more accepting or less cringe?
I think, and it's probably self-fulfilling, that as trans folk, we need to be a lot more honest with with trans experience. Like I was saying, like, how do you know you're trans? Like, I don't know. What is being trans? Just stuff like that. Like we've really done a great job moving away from the cookie cutter cis narrative that they always want to put out. Like I knew when I was in utero that I wanted to wear a dress, and that's how I knew I was trans. Like that's just not the case. Majority of us don't know when we were younger.
I knew when
The
they
push-
swaddled me in the wrong color. Sorry, go on.
Seriously. Some of us, like in Amy's case, we wipe our butt once, and all of a sudden we're the opposite gender. Like nobody knows. Some of us got trans by the pandemic. Like, let's just be honest about our experiences. But in honesty, like, it's just being honest about your transition. It's not always easy. People go through a lot of stuff. It's not cookie cutter A, B, and C. And yeah, I'll stop there before I go on anymore.
I
But
think
yeah,
it's
it's
trial and error a bit, is kind of what you're describing. Like, it's some similar thing for me. It's like, well, at first I tried to be a gender nonconforming cis female, and I hated that. And then I tried to be a fairly gender nonconforming trans man. Also didn't work very well. Like, I had to try testosterone before I knew whether it was going to work for me or not. Sometimes you just have to, like, I don't know if estrogen is going to help, but I'm going to try it. Or like maybe I'll just try a hormone blocker for a couple months and see how that makes me feel. Like sometimes you don't know. And then you start transitioning and you're like, oh, now I know that I actually did have dysphoria. I was dissociating all the time. You know, like sometimes you don't know until you try it, for sure.
And Emma, do you have an answer to this?
Yeah. I did. Will you repeat the question?
Yes, absolutely. What do you wish the trans community would do differently to make it more accepting or less cringe?
Yeah, I feel that we have moved to a place that is more accepting. We don't feel the, early 90s forced thing on us that was like, oh yeah, you have to do your very best to, pass to get your hormones even. Like I think we've gotten to a place that's better about that. I think that I agree with I believe Luxander said it, um, that I think sometimes we need to give people space to learn, if they are willing to do so. And I think we need to be willing to forgive past transgressions. Like if somebody said like a slur in like 2002 and they're like not that way anymore, I feel like it would be like, hey, yeah, I mean, you should probably like apologize and be like, hey, I didn't. I was shitty back then, but like I don't think we need to be like, yeah, you should die in a pit of fire. Um, like have your bones crackle away first. Like I don't think that's the necessary route for somebody that like didn't know better at the time or was using common phrasing and knowledge at the time. Um, that's kind of where I'm at. The less cringe stuff, nah, fuck it, be cringe. Like, fuck cis people. They're not gonna accept you anyways if they're that much of assholes. Like, just be you.
I mean, talking about being cringe to each other.
Oh, like people
I
being
could
cringe.
I could give a
Yeah,
shit
no,
about
someone was
like
so cringe with me one time. So I was in like a baby trans server, and like this girl was like, "I love your name. I'm gonna call myself Emma," and I was like, "Yo, that's fucked up. Like you're just trying to take my name. Like that. Come on now, that's not nice."
We should have like a
yeah.
list of like the 10 most common trans girl and trans guy names so that
Guys,
we
my
can
name
like
would be
you can
on that
choose
list,
different
but like, don't
names.
tell me.
I think that's
I mean,
like my
yeah,
big
Emma
issue
would be
right
for sure.
now. Sorry, as an old queen in the community now. Like everybody's going the way of Greek mythology names, and I'm like, did that 3 years ago, and now I'm somehow cool.
I changed my name like 10 years ago, and now I'm seeing people called Lux like all over the place. I'm like, I literally like changed my name when I was 18, and I thought I was being original, but no.
I thought I was being original. Like when I was picking my name, I wanted the most passable cis sounding name I could find. Because I was entirely internalizing my transphobia at that point. And I was like, Emma is simple and easy and impossible to misspell. We're gonna do that. And it feels good enough to wear, right? So yeah. All of my experiences are caked in a grease of Florida, so how it is.
And Amy, what do you think? Do you want me to repeat the question?
What do I wish the trans community would do differently to make it more accepting or less cringe? Well,
You
I
could
don't
have
know
said yes,
about
but that's fine.
less cringe. Oh, I just went and read it off and reminded myself. Yeah, I guess I could have just said yes, but you know, fuck you. No.
Oh.
I I came up in a very conservative background, so when I came out, one of the many things told to me was because I was still identifying as Republican as at the time was that you can't be trans. You're just making it up. Now that is a hella weird fucking thing to say to someone, but at the same time, valid point.
Like they thought you
To
were lying.
the or the suspicion of being conservative and trying to engage in the community.
Were you Arab? Assigned Republican at birth?
Oh God! I thought you were mispronouncing it.
No.
Yeah. I was Arab. Assigned Republican at birth.
Ooh.
And my grandfather had a lot of conservative thoughts instilled in me that were not true in the slightest. It took a cousin who was really accepting and really wanted to be in my life, and I really wanted them to be in mine, to break down a lot of my misconceptions. Everything from believing that people got, tax holidays if they were refugees to um, my attitudes towards gender and what have you. Uh, to make it more accepting, though, I don't know. I think the only thing that would have helped there was if more people were willing to be like, okay, yeah, you say you're a Republican, but let's actually break down why do you believe you're a Republican, or let's break down, what are your beliefs behind that. But it shouldn't be on oppressed people to do the labor of that stuff. It should be on the person that's learning to do a lot of it. But there does need to be people that do that teaching because some people the only way they're going to learn is if someone they care about tells them.
Yeah,
It's a
absolutely.
real meeting the masses where they're at opinion there, Amy. I appreciate that. That was a leftist joke. I apologize.
uh,
Can I get
so
like a sorry to interrupt again? Can I
you're
give like
fine.
a bonus answer?
Sure.
Like, I think what
Bonus.
would really help the trans community is Caitlyn Jenner finding the business end of a car this time. That's about it.
I'm not laughing at that one because I don't want to be,
Can't be implicated.
Yeah.
I had nothing to do with this joke. I
For
it.
legal reasons, I'm not going to California anytime soon.
Oh, that was good.
So, did we already talk about our experiences with mental health and physical health care?
Kinda. We kind of opened with that
Yeah.
a little
We
bit.
touched on it.
Do we want to go more in depth, or do we want to go to a different question?
I mean, I'm willing to talk more about it. 'Cause I have some takes.
Okay, we'll start with you, Emma. What?
So, I think that mental health and transness can often be pretty uniquely linked, in that we often have to go down the route of medical diagnoses to get treatment for anything.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's also relevant that we the the extraordinary majority of us are not neurotypical. And I think that there's something to be said to that regard. Uh, just that like people that are willing to see the world in a different lens are willing to um, break down what they're told from societal perspectives. Um, I'd also like to add that my experience with uh, medical care, specifically trans medical care in Florida, has been awful, and I plan on leaving the state within the next year.
Fair. Yeah. There's a lot of
Um,
states out there right now that are trying to make it more difficult for everyone. Like not just trans people, I would say, like even for like women. It's been a shit show for black people because like doctors just inherently treat them differently. But yeah, it's been awful lately. Like more awful than usual. So
yeah, like I know for me specifically, I had to thoroughly educate myself on any possible treatment plans, um, because I knew that the people I was going to get it from wouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
I had to do my own research on progesterone and say like, "Hey, I want progesterone," and for them to go, "I don't think it does anything," and I'd be like, "Just give me the progesterone. I know you don't think it does anything. I'll determine that."
Was this like an actual doctor?
Yes.
Someone who went to school to be a doctor and told you that progesterone doesn't do anything.
It's
Yeah.
unclear what the specific benefit is for trans women. Like just the studies done on the subject haven't conclusively determined that it's always effective in every case. But like even if it's 10% of women who take it who get fat BAPs, like I feel like it's worth the 1 in 10 try.
Yeah. Let I th- anyways.
Yeah. I had that. I've had other things with trans healthcare in the state. Like I was basically outed by my Planned Parenthood because they decided to send a insurance thing to my dad when I never even gave them my insurance, which was uniquely frustrating.
Yeah, that's not good.
With my name on it, like my preferred name on it, and he's like, "Hey, I got this weird bill in the mail for an Emma. The fuck is that?" And I had to just lie my ass off because I knew that at that time, if I had come out to him, I would not have a home.
Mhm.
Um, so that was struggling. The thing with the progesterone was frustrating. Um, I've also had frustrating experiences where they won't communicate with their lab stuff correctly. I've specifically been turned away from lab places because they're like, "We don't want to do this with you." Um, like I've been denied care. I've been denied prescriptions from pharmacies. Um, just all of the shit. Like me trying to get my hormones at a normal pace taken as prescribed has been hell because of where I live and because of the local opinion on trans people in general. Um, like even I changed pharmacies recently, and they decided that they were just going to dead name me, and they were not willing to do anything else to help me. Um, and so it's just stuff like that where I come to a very cynical perspective on trans healthcare, especially in the state that I'm in, where I was like, I had to do my own research, look at my own numbers, determine what I needed, because they also weren't willing to look at my thing and determine if I needed an updose, even though I could look at the chart and look at average cis woman levels and determine that I needed to updose. So I basically had to come to a place where I had to teach myself endocrinology, and I had to figure out in what instances it was most correct to lie to my medical provider in order to achieve what I needed to achieve. So that's my perspective. I know that's a very cynical one, and I apologize.
That's okay.
Yeah, you have nothing
I
to
don't think it's
apologize
cynical.
for.
It's realistic. Like for
Yeah.
some people in some places.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Amy, what has been your experience?
I've, when I first came out, the doctor I was going to, for the trans care, I went to my pediatrician. They recommended someone, and I went to that person. And that person wanted me to change my name, dress full femme all the time. They were giving me the 1980s Benjamin standards of care, which dictated that you had to walk the part, talk the part, act the part before ever getting hormones, before ever getting anything that would help you do any of that.
You're supposed to live in the role for like 6 months or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
yeah. And I luckily the friend who helped me come out introduced me to Trans Family up in Erie, Pennsylvania, and the woman that leads that, Miss Caitlin Strohmeyer, she helped me determine that what I was being told by that doctor was bullshit and shouldn't be asked of anyone. That it wasn't the modern standards, that it was way out of date, and I I quickly looked up access to the Cleveland Clinic, because I was living in Ohio at the time, and found their trans clinic. They were just starting it, but it offered me the opportunity to go at 7 o'clock in the morning for appointments, and being a morning person, that was vastly preferred over talking to other places that were scheduling 6 months out because they only offered 1 day a week for their trans clinic.
Mm.
And I had pretty good experience with healthcare in that regard. Mental health care, I've always had a great experience. But I also have like a book of rules that I follow. And the first and foremost is, if at any point I start to get the feeling that I'm not clicking with that therapist, I switch. I
Yeah.
will find someone else. I don't care if I gotta, search high and low. I will find someone else that I get along with, because if I don't get along with someone, and now that I know it's because I'm borderline, I won't be able to take any of their advice seriously.
Hmm.
So it doesn't
Absolutely.
even matter if they have my best interest. I just won't. I I just don't give them the time of day. I can't. Because something about them feels off to me, and that feeling off is enough for me to dismiss. Um, I I have had some rather gender affirming experiences in physical healthcare. Uh, like, I went to the doctors close to 12 times for a torn rotator cuff, and was dismissed as
Oh.
not knowing what I was talking about, not actually being in as much pain as I was claiming, and generally being a pussy. And it wasn't until
Welcome to
my
Womanhead.
yeah, 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 it wasn't until my boyfriend screamed at the nurse that someone actually took a scan of my shoulder and said, "Oh yeah, you should probably see an orthopedic."
Yeah, no
And
shit.
got that fixed. I was passing out regularly, and collapsing from dehydration when my spironolactone had gotten to the point that I could no longer hydrate. Didn't matter
Mm.
what I did. I was drinking like gallons of water a day, and I would go to the bathroom, go pee, and collapse on the floor because my muscles had nothing to be able to move. And
Wow.
I'd lay there for an hour while feeling slowly came back.
Jesus.
And yeah, so it's been a bit of a mixed bag, but all in all, I'd sum it up as good, because the mental health care has been great for me. I had a great therapist for a lot of years while I lived in Ohio still, and she helped me solve a lot of things, and yeah, you know getting properly diagnosed for conditions unrelated to being trans, but that nonetheless relate to it just because of the way the world is, has definitely helped.
And Luxander, what has your experience been like?
For mental health care, I know I said earlier that like I had I went in initially thinking like I had depression, and I was rotated off various medications for like 7 years, which I feel was a mismanagement of my care, but that was not because I was trans or anything. That was just because she didn't want to refer me to therapy, I guess. Like maybe at the time I was like resistant to therapy because I felt I couldn't afford it, but she should have been like, "Well, I can't help you," instead of just like, "Yeah, well, let's try yet another med." Um but I ended up having really good experiences with my DBT therapist, who happened to be really trans friendly, and my current therapist is it's like trans friendly in a less explicit way as far as her practice goes, but still like open to it. And if I say like that's not a relevant factor, then she's not going to push it and be like, "But let's talk about it though." Um, I live in an area that's relatively liberal, so it's relatively easy to find providers who are willing to help. As far as trans related healthcare specifically, I started testosterone in 2015, and at that time I was basically online all the time looking for trans resources, and I found a list of informed consent clinics, and I drove 3 hours away to go to an informed consent clinic. And that was very easy because she was a nurse. She was like, "Okay, everybody who comes in here seeking this care knows everything that I'm about to tell them, but we have to go through it legally anyway. Like, here's all the possible side effects and everything." And I was like, "Yeah, I understand." She was like, "Okay, I'll write you a prescription. Do you want to have your first shot today?" And I was like, "Bet. Yeah, for sure." So I had my first shot done, and then I drove 3 hours home. Um, I'm not sure if that contributed to the ass pain or not, remains to be seen, I guess. But uh, I didn't end up coming back at all because I just kept getting my prescriptions refilled and didn't want to drive 3 hours to get my blood work done. So I have no idea what my testosterone or estrogen levels were like for those 2 years. Probably was on too high of a dose. Don't know. Went off T again without getting in touch with a doctor because I was like, whatever, I'm just going to go back to having my normal irregular hormonal cycles. And when I went back on T, again, I happened to just go to a really trans friendly doctor who was basically like, "It kind of pisses me off that you have to come here and ask me for hormones." Like, that's his perspective on birth control and everything is all like, "I'm just really annoyed that I have to act as a gatekeeper for you to pick up something that you should be able to just walk down to the pharmacy for." So for him, it was basically just like, "These are the normative ranges. If you want to be on a low dose, we can work with that. Like, I'm willing to do as high of a blood level as like 1200, if that's like if the really masculine guys are going for that." So my doctor just happens to be really cool, and yeah, I can basically just text him up and be like, "Hey, I'd like to start T again," and he'd be like, "Okay, what dose do you want to do?" And that would be the end of it. So I've been really fortunate in that regard. Uh, I have been not taken seriously because of like I tried to get birth control at one point when I was not on T, and I just wrote on my forms that I was genderqueer and used they them pronouns, and like I'm having like my ears and my eyes examined, and the doctor's like, "You're too pretty to be trans," and I'm like, "I am going to lose it." So that was a rare occurrence, and that small thing was enough for me to go like, "I'm going to be really selective about where I get my medical care from now on." And yeah, that's all. Not even considering that I still have female reproductive care needs, which can be very severely mismanaged, as in the case of me getting an IUD put in, where like it's just everything about that is they don't really inform you fully how bad it's going to hurt. And sometimes you wonder like, is it because also I'm trans that you're being even less communicative about this shit? But I think it's just like simultaneously dealing with potential trans healthcare issues and then just also dealing with the constant background radiation of how bad female reproductive care tends to be, and the fact that we don't know as much about it as like male reproductive healthcare and stuff. And that it's considered normal to just do incredibly painful things to people routinely. Like a friend of mine had some cervical material removed on the same day by happenstance, and was like, yeah, they didn't like numb it at all. They just like cut parts off of me and didn't numb it at all. And so we got to like commiserate over our shared, cervical trauma. So that's kind of one of my main my main problems with the medical institution at this time is just having things that are considered routine, like having an IUD put in. And then I tweeted on, I said like, having an IUD put in is basically sexual violence, and 60,000 people liked that tweet, and hundreds of commenters were like, yes, I kicked the doctor in the face by accident, or like I screamed and passed out, like it hurt worse than childbirth. It's that's my current beef with the medical institutions.
Why do they think that it doesn't hurt?
I don't know.
So there was a survey done a few years ago in which they asked med students a series of questions, and some of the things that were gleaned from it was that a overwhelming majority of med students believe that women exaggerate the amount of pain they are in.
Mm-hmm.
An overwhelming amount of med students believe that Black people exaggerate the amount of pain they're in and underestimate the amount of pain they can take. Believe that people of color have thicker skin. Like horribly ridiculous things that like med students are coming out of college fully believing, and they've not had those beliefs challenged in the least by their training.
I think some medical training actually does still maintain that Black people experience less pain. So like
Yeah.
it might be something that they're not only not having challenged, but there's like maybe they didn't
It's
even have
being
that notion
reinforced
beforehand.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's yeah. I also just wanted to jump in. I have had an especially positive physical health experience since moving to this region. My doctor's office, I'm lucky enough, is right across the street from my apartment, and like the walls in this doctor's office are all about consent culture and safe sex, and like there's a drawing of a woman with her legs spread and a picture of a cut open dragon fruit in place of where her vagina would be.
Mhm.
It's a very, very progressive doctor's office, and I love it. I get free laser hair removal
Girl, what?
through there. Yes, I have not paid a cent for my facial hair removal, and I will not have to pay a cent for my bottom surgery hair removal or any others that I get done as long as I have a surgery aligning with it.
That's cool.
tell
Yeah.
me how to get that.
Fucking right? Like, Jesus
Come to
Christ.
Pittsburgh.
Like, grands on
I would love to make Pittsburgh the trans capital of the world. That'd be fucking awesome.
Sorry, I'm doing that to Chicago right now.
Right before we get to Freckle, I'd like to say in chat someone said to the question of why doctors treat women that way, because peeps never looked into the actual anatomy of the cervix and vagina. They only very recently discovered the full internal structure of the clitoris. So yeah, that sounds about right. So Freckle, what's your experience with mental health and physical health care?
A mixed bag, I'll be honest. But I was gonna say that I've had a partner go in before to get an IUD, and they're like, "Are you gonna do anything to manage my care?" And doctor just shrugged and said, "We can give you like a higher dose ibuprofen if you want."
That's literally all they just like, yeah, that's all they do. And then I'm having like severe cramping for like the next several months every time my body tries to menstruate. And I'm like, this is way beyond anything I used to experience. And I message them like, hey, I'm having this intense pain. And also it's kind of near my ovary instead of where you put the IUD. So what the fuck is happening? And they're like, yeah, it's just normal. Take some, a leave.
Oh,
It's like hard not to feel like it's an ongoing mismanagement of care for sure. Like not only did they fuck it up in the first place, but even now.
Like, if I had to go through that, I would. Like, if someone said that to me, I would want to strangle them. Like,
I don't think I'm gonna go back there for healthcare unless it's imminently necessary.
yeah, no, I do not blame you in the slightest. That's awful.
Anyway, Freckles was trying to talk
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
So I have a very mixed bag. I mostly seek out all of my trans-related healthcare in Illinois. I live on the border of Illinois and Wisconsin, but I had to do, I just recently moved here to Illinois. But the first 4.5 years of my transition were in Wisconsin, where healthcare was less than ideal. I've had pharmacists go really fucking cold on me when I would go in and ask them like what's going on with my estrogen and stuff like that. And like ultimately they never got in the way, but it went from like being completely friendly to just being really crap.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've had horrible mental health professionals over the years tried like essentially turn it into a session where I'm teaching them on trans theory and stuff like that, which
Yeah.
is like, yo, I'm not here to teach you all this. Until it got to the point where my last therapist, uh, the only reason like I don't see her now is because she's not licensed in Illinois. But like I told her, like I'm not here to teach you. Like I'm so over teaching therapists about trans stuff because like I'll say, "Hey, I look like shit today," and she'll be like, "Yeah, but you're still really pretty." I'm like, "That's not the point. Like, that's not how dysphoria works. Um, or you still look like a woman." I'm like, "No, stop that shit. Like, that's not what we want to hear."
Yeah.
Um, but as far as healthcare, I've actually been very, very lucky with all my trans related healthcare here. I remember one time, 'cause I basically had no doctors in Wisconsin anymore. I still had a primary that I saw once a year, and he was very much like, "Yeah, we don't talk about that." Um, asked them once to do an STD check because I needed to get one. I was getting a blood draw anyways for surgery, and I'm like, "Could you just quick write one for getting some blood drawn for STD panel?" And I had to go through like the whole little dance of like the secretary called me and had to ask me all these questions of, well, why do you need an STD check? You're married. And I'm like, honey, like fuck
Oh,
you. All you gotta do is sign a paper. Why are we drawing this out? But other than that, like I've actually been very, very lucky. Um,
Can you speak closer
healthcare,
to your mic? It's hard to hear you.
my bad.
You're fine.
Very lucky. I think that for like mental health and stuff like that. 2 years ago, things got really bad for me, and like it's crazy to see where I was 2 years ago versus now. Like joining a Discord server where I know half you fuckers are a direct result of like this horrible spiral I had, and I had to go to intensive outpatient, and like I would have people sit there and tell me like, "Hey, so you've really changed my opinion on trans people." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. So you just coded that in. I thought you were like a phony piece of shit when you first joined, and for the first 3 weeks, I didn't respect you at all, but somehow I changed your opinion." Like, I understand that's how things change, but it's like, why are we allowing stuff like that to be said? Like, it's telling on yourself. And yeah, I don't know. That was more of a vent than I guess an answer to your question. But even like psychiatrists and stuff still don't understand basic trans healthcare. And that's coming from a very conservative state or ish state, a very conservative county that's been going for Trump. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds pretty awful, actually. I don't want to go through that. So, um, let's see. What's a good question we can have before people have to leave? Um. Oh. The very next question, or not the very next question, but like one of them. What are the ways that you guys cope with things that are going on in the world? Let's start with Freckle.
Ooh, I'm gonna defer this for a second.
You want me to throw it to someone else first?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to think on that one.
Sure. Luxander?
I mean, this is the question I think that we all kind of have to ask ourselves every day. Like, what do we do to get through this day? Like, while we're inundated with news about, shootings at queer clubs and stuff like that. Like,
Mm.
how do you deal with that? I mean, like, to a certain extent, the answer is disengage when you need to. Like, take time away from the news. Like, yes, it's important to be informed, but frankly, thinking that you need to know every bad thing that is happening is kind of a trauma thing where you're trying to be as aware of all the bad things as possible so you can protect yourself from them, which makes sense, but it's also going to destroy you. So you have to step away. And I am cultivating hobbies, which I think is really important for your confidence and self esteem as well as being a distraction. Like, I play my guitar or I'll do crochet, and like while I'm doing crochet, I'll put on some stupid video, like I'll put on a bunch of Good Mythical Morning videos or something that
Oh, I
is
love them.
they're so great, right? And it's like I enjoy it. It's lighthearted, it's jokes, it's funny, and it doesn't make me think about the world, at least not too seriously. Like, sometimes they'll make the occasional like joke about Jeb Bush saying like please clap or something, like, but it's wholesome. So taking the time away from all of the political nonsense and not only spending that time cultivating your own individual interests, but also making a priority in spending time with your friends. If it's only through Discord, that's fine. Like, when you get the hanging out ping in one of the servers that you're in, that like sometimes people go hang out, like sometimes you should just go check and see who's in the group call and see if you want to join and hang out for a few hours. It is going to be better for you than being isolated all the time. um so yeah, I guess that's the main stuff.
God, it feels like you're calling me out right now. uh,
I'm still working on it myself as well. The having friends thing is a big struggle for me.
yeah, yeah, it's difficult. Uh, I probably wouldn't have had like a friends night every week if it wasn't for my partner, because like she basically like absolutely needs friend time, like social kind of time, and I have never been that consistent with social time. And I've been very isolated basically my entire life, so yeah. It's really difficult, and I understand people who have that struggle, but like yeah, definitely, like if you can try to go and be social somewhere to help your mental health and all that.
Being alone is comfortable and predictable, and I understand the urge to stay in that location where you're like, at least there's no other input, it's just me.
Mm. Freckle, do you have an answer yet?
I do. It's actually funny that I deferred because I wasn't ready to answer because I was texting somebody going, I find it really fascinating that, a much bigger population of the lesbian community are really perking their ears up to these anti-trans laws because they're realizing that, like, if things come after us, they're going after them too when it comes to like gendered uh, clothing laws and whether sodomy. Like, we're realizing that, like, for me, mental health and self-care with all this stuff is not going to historically gay areas. Like, Chicago's known for their boys town, but they're not queer friendly there at all. And so it's finding like spaces that you can go. And when we hear bad news and things like that, I have a patch on my jacket that always says if you could only keep your head down and survive, or it's okay if you could only keep your head down and survive, but when and if you can, please fight back. And like that's always been the very big motto for me is like it's not easy being a trans woman in labor. It's not easy being a trans woman at all, but sometimes you just gotta like sit back and when you're ready, fight like hell. And we see all these laws and stuff, and I feel selfish because I insulated myself by moving from conservatism to the very big liberal population. And I don't know, like it's easy now to hide from the news. It's nice. We always make the joke with like today being Trans Day of Remembrance. I'm like, sorry, but I remember I'm trans every time I walk into a grocery store and people are just staring at me
True.
and just stuff like that. So I don't know
Yeah.
if I'm summing that up correctly, but yeah,
Yeah,
it's
no,
sometimes just hiding and keeping your head down.
yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Emma,
Yeah.
how what are the ways that you cope with the way things are going on in the world?
I keep telling myself I'm going to move.
Fair enough.
Same, true. I mean, having that as like the long-term plan is part of what's like making it easier to get through day by day, for sure.
Well, and because the reality that I'm faced with is that I look like this just about every day. And
So beautiful.
even when I go towards like the highest fem, the most passable, I still can't get employed here. Like people just won't hire me as soon as they see an incongruence of names on a resume.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, nope, immediately no.
I feel that, yeah.
The last job I had that I got a tax form from was before my transition because nobody will hire me. I got a job that was like a traveling thing out of state for like it was kind of like gig work. And I'm starting to go out and do musician things again. Um, but it's just it's brutal here, and it's brutal like being like, oh yeah, the kid that's in my girlfriend's class just got denied um trans care, and the same kid that she saw blossom this year with access to hormone blockers and be able to finally feel like themselves is now being forced to detransition. And it's like, yeah, all we can do is hope the kid makes it to high school because that's how fucked up it is here. And because it's just so brutal and everything happens so consistently in this state that it's like I know that part of their entire goal is to get us to just leave, but honestly, I I can't afford to stay and fight through it.
I think a lot of people are feeling the same way you are. Like it yeah. It's really difficult to stay when they're making it as difficult as possible to live in those states. Like Texas and Florida are like the worst for LGBT people, and it's abysmal.
I think on this day of all days, let's not beat around the bush. Their intention is not for us to leave. Their intention is for us to die.
Yeah, of course.
Um,
But I think
Make
people,
no mistake, they will go into liberal states. They will go after
Ooh,
us wherever they can when that time comes, and
ooh,
that time is fast approaching.
can I give you a hot take on what like my analysis is on the trans agenda or trans Republican agenda on trans issues?
sure,
Mm.
Like we're seeing it all over when it comes to like abortion laws, when it comes to what can be taught in schools, and everything becoming a state by state issue. And like we're gonna probably see that with same sex marriage, that it's not a federal decision, it's a state decision. And it's not necessarily, or like the scapegoat and all that is like, yeah, abortion is banned in X amount of states, but that's not where they're stopping. Say like we're having to have states that pass laws to make themselves a refugee state for abortion, so the bounty hunters in Texas can't go after you for providing it or receiving an abortion. Like their goal is, hey, you live in Ohio and you're traveling interstate travel to go get an abortion, we're going to now sue that clinic and try to make it so they don't then want to deal with the legal hassle of providing an abortion in a legal state. Like they just want to bury these people in litigation to the point it's not fortuitous for them to have this profession at all, and will go into something different, thus minimizing the care overall. We're seeing that when it comes to like public education of like, we're going to sue over this curriculum and all this stuff. We're going to bleed you dry of money, so then you're no longer trying to what's the word I'm looking for, partake in these practices, even if it's legal.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's pretty obvious to me that it's also an underhanded, specifically the public schools thing is very obviously an underhanded way of reducing funding to the public school system, for
Yeah.
sure.
But
Well,
then
yeah.
when it comes down to like, well, maybe this was going to be the only church in the middle of like Arizona that now has turned kind of blue. You know, like maybe you're the only church within 100 miles that performs same-sex marriage. Well, oh, you're doing that and I'm pissed off in Texas? Well, we're going to just litigate the hell out of you. Your little church can't survive it, so now you're not providing same-sex marriage. So now you got to travel even further, putting the burden on the couple that are trying to get married, thus minimizing. You know, that's what they do with voting. They put so many obstacles that you just don't want to do it anymore. And that's what I see like the future going if they keep getting their way.
And Amy, do you have an answer to the question?
Yes, I cope with the way things are going in multiple ways. So one is I've been trying to rekindle old hobbies that I had growing up. Whether it's creative kind like drawing, drafting. I've been drafting houses. I've been digging into learning AutoCAD to turn those houses into 3D models. I am engaged. I am a Pennsylvania state lead with Progressive Victory.
Ooh.
And so far I've only been handling like the tech side of it, but I'm open to taking on more responsibility as that comes, and I found that by just the Progressive Victory thing alone, it's become a lot easier to deal with the stuff because I'm able to see that as there is a significant reason for people to feel doom and gloom, but there is also significant reason for us to feel that it is still possible to fight back. It is not, I don't think it's possible to delay the all-out attack on our rights any longer, but I do believe it will still be possible to fight back against that attack. Engaging in streaming is a great way to cope because I'm not always then looking at problems affecting me. Sometimes I'm looking at problems affecting other people. And that helps give the buildup of grief and sadness a place to go that isn't focused on the self. And then spend time coming up with solutions to their problems. That way, when I get the energy to start acting on solutions, I can feel that I'm offering something to different communities. A big thing for me has always been staying in therapy. I firm believer that if you can afford, if you can get access to a therapist, by all means get one. Everyone can benefit to some degree. Even if it's just someone to go and vent to because your partner's not listening to you when you vent, you know. And by increasing the amount of things that I'm active in, it's become a lot easier to deal with how dreadful a lot of the things feel. Um, I I I I am lucky that I live in Pennsylvania. we Fetterman just got elected. We got Summerlee elected. We got Josh Shapiro elected governor, and he crushed Mastriano, the neo-Nazi that was taking him on.
Good.
And having stuff like that makes it a lot easier to cope. I think I feel for people that are in states like Texas and Florida significantly. I have many friends in those states, and I have and I know my urging doesn't do anything but add to their anxiety, but at times I do urge them. It's like, please, look into getting out of there. Because like I don't want to have to think about someone's funeral and not be able to go to it too. Because of my own safety. And fighting back has honestly always been my best way of coping with that type of stress. Because if I'm not fighting back, then I feel like I am. No, I don't want to say it that way. I feel like if I fail to fight back when I'm able to, then I am as much enabling it to continue. Even if, in the grand scheme of things, I have no control over any of it.
Fair. Yeah. So basically, you cope with it by diving straight into it.
Yeah.
That is valid.
It's I isolated for a very long time, and in the wake of the traumas that I went through in the year 2017 and 2018, I became reclusive, hardly engaged in any topics. Like I'd pay attention to what was going on, but I'd try to distract as much as I could, and all it did was it made the rest of my life miserable. It I do nothing but video game for hours on end, and that while it was a great escape, it was also a trap. It was hard to get back into being engaged in things then because of how disengaged I made myself, that even paying the slightest amount of attention to it became hard. And I found that by diving in, that I've been able to alleviate that. I think that's the word.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, yeah.
So we kind of went on a little longer than we intended.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. This was all my fault because I was finagling everything on my stream. But yeah, I want everyone to be able to get their plugs. So let's go with Emma. Where can we find you?
On Twitch, and EMA Games, capital EMA. I don't think it's cap sensitive. But yeah, EMA Games. You find me doing guitar streams, and probably rambling about random music related things. I don't tend to go much into. I'm not brave enough for politics.
Fair enough.
I think that's part of me trying to isolate myself and just trying to not see the state around me. But I think it's also necessary to have both information as well as positive things to see. And yeah, so you can find me there. I'll get my YouTube channel up and running at some point. My name's Emma D'Angelo. Um, spell it however you like. It's fine. But yeah, that's that. All right, I'll stop taking up time. I apologize.
You're fine. Thank you for the raid. Tog and Dog?
Yeah. They're
Okay.
friends of mine.
Oh, nice. Thank you guys so much. Let's see. The Freckle. Is there anywhere we can find you?
Honestly, not really. I don't do a lot of internet stuff. I
Fair.
probably still have a Twitter out there somewhere. So I'm gonna take this time to say everybody should go check out the Starbucks Workers United campaign, the sbworkersunited.org. They just had a strike on Red Cup Day. They're doing great things, probably in your area. So join the union.
Yay, join a union. And Luxander, where can we find you?
Hi again. I am Luxander. They let me choose a handle on YouTube, so it's at Luxander Real on YouTube. I do not stream on Twitch, but yeah, I live stream on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays typically, and we talk about politics and trans stuff. And frankly, we get on lots of tangents about linguistics and other random shit because you're a captive audience, and I'll talk about whatever the fuck I want to. So if you're interested in that, follow me on YouTube, or you can check me out on Twitter at Lux_banana. And I would not recommend hitting the notifications button on Twitter unless you want to have your phone going off like 17 times a day, but only once a week.
Well, thank you. Amy, where can we find you?
You can find me at Don't Ooh My Oo on Twitch.tv. I also have a Don't Ooh My Oo on YouTube. I haven't posted to there yet, but I may start doing it, especially after this morning stream I did, because I feel like it was valuable to keep the bot around for longer than temporary until the next VOD pushes it out, or however Twitch's works. The more I think about it, the more I'm thinking about starting to stream to YouTube as well. And I stream Sundays, Mondays. Pretty much every day of the week is open to me to stream, but my scheduled streams are Sunday and Monday mornings. I do Go Fuck Yourself America stream, or GFYA if you see it in the title, because there's a character limit on Twitch. And we get into housing, city density, and trans topics and politics quite regularly. I will be continuing to stream post panel, and if you are on the Discord, feel free to hop in. And if there's room for you to join me on stream, I will fit you in. Probably going to go for a few more hours.
Sweet. And I am Starpanda. I am Starpanda on TV on everything, basically. Twitch, YouTube, Twitter. Basically everything. You can find me there.
Oh yeah, I'm on Twitter too.
And I want to take this time to tell everyone, please donate to the Trevor Project. We have a thing going on now. Type up what is it? Where is it? No, it's not there. It's exclamation charity and exclamation donate, and you'll get a donation link to donate to this Tiltify project. And I appreciate everyone for coming in. Yeah. Go do that. Go donate like $1. That's fine.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone for coming on.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Talk to y'all later.
See ya.
Talk to you later.
Love you.